Hey, it's Kelby. In this video, I'm going to help you get familiar with Rock My Retirement's user interface. Let's get started. One of the first things you'll notice about Rock My Retirement is that it doesn't look like any other software you've ever used. That's intentional. I built Rock My Retirement to be inviting, fun, and low stress. In other words, the exact opposite of your tax software. So rather than drop-down menus, text entry boxes, and help files that read like a textbook, Rock My Retirement has toggle switches, knobs, faders, view meters, LEDs, and old-school buttons that light up when you press them. On each screen, there's a small library of videos that will show you how everything works, so you can get up and running quickly. I hope you find the UI fun, I hope you find it relaxing, and most importantly, I hope you find it to be nothing like tax software. Now, let's take a look at how the UI works. Rock My Retirement's user interface is divided into menus, and each menu has a different screen associated with it. When you start Rock My Retirement, you'll begin on the My Info menu. Each of the buttons on the top of the screen will take you to a different menu. I suggest that you work through these menus in order, but you can certainly visit them and work on them in any order you like. Most of the menus in Rock My Retirement are split into two sections, which I will call modules. The left module, which I call the Input module, allows you to input information relevant to the menu. For example, in the My Info menu, the left module lets you input your birth date, retirement date, and other information. The right module, which I call the Graph module, has graphs and a view meter that provide you with real-time feedback about how well your retirement would hold up in various scenarios. Let's take a closer look at the features in the Graph module. At the top of the Graph module, you'll see a graph that displays information about different scenarios. A scenario is the central building block of Rock My Retirement. A scenario is a set of economic conditions over time. For example, when you retire, the first year of your retirement will have a certain rate of inflation, rate of property value increases, growth rates for various classes of stocks, bonds, and commodities, and increases on rents for rental properties, and so on. These rates will be different during every year of your retirement. In order to assess your retirement preparation, we need to create many different scenarios so that you can evaluate how well your retirement holds up in the face of varying conditions. The graph at the top of the module allows you to scroll through simulations based on each of the scenarios that can be generated using available historical data. I'll explain how to use this graph in a separate video. In the upper right corner of the graph module, there is a view meter. I call this the success meter. It tells you the percentage of scenarios in which you do not run out of money. I'll explain the success meter in more detail in a separate video. At the bottom of the graph module, there is a three-dimensional graph. Don't worry if you haven't used something like this before. It's really quite simple, and I'll show you how to use it in a separate video. For now, though, note that at the right of the 3D graph, there is a library. This is Rock My Retirement's version of a help menu. If you left-click one of the buttons in the library, the three-dimensional graph will be replaced by a video that provides information helpful about the button's topic. If you right-click a button, it will open a web browser and play the video on YouTube, so you can see it in full screen and with captions if that's easier for you. Note that different menus have different topics in their library. That's because each menu's library focuses on the topics relevant to that menu. Let's take just a quick minute to show you how to control some of the widgets in Rock My Retirement. Rock My Retirement has lots of knobs. There are several ways to control a knob. With your mouse, you can left-click a knob and simply drag the knob around. Here's a cool trick. If you want fine control of the knob, that is, moving it in small increments, then after you click and hold the left mouse button, move the mouse away from the knob and drag it in a larger arc. You'll have the fine control you would have if the knob were huge. You can also control knobs by selecting the knob with the left click and then pressing the up or down arrows or the right or left arrows. If your mouse has a scroll wheel, you can also use that to turn the knob. Now let's take a look at something I call a phase widget. There's an example at the bottom of the Input module on the My Info menu under Residency. The phase widget allows you to divide your retirement into different phases in case you want to input different information for different periods of your retirement. Each phase widget has the ability to set these phases differently. For example, if I'm going to live in California for all 30 years of my retirement, then I would leave the phases knob at one phase, and I would have my residency for phase 1 set to California. That would be for the entire retirement. But suppose I plan to move to Texas 5 years into my retirement. Well, then I would set the phases knob to 2 phases, and I would set the first phase to 5 years. The second phase would automatically adjust to however many years are left. I would set my residency for phase 1 to California and my residency for phase 2 to Texas. And if I wanted to add another phase and spend my last 7 years in Montana, I would switch the phases knob to 3 phases. I'd adjust the phase 2 years knob to 18, and then I would set the phase 3 residency to Montana. This will all be pretty simple as you start working with it. Well, that wraps up our introduction to Rock My Retirement's user interface. I would encourage you to get started by watching all of the videos in the My Info library to help you rock your retirement.